Hi guys, Squirrel here, and welcome to a Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 video. Now, it's been 2 weeks approximately since Flight Sim 2024 was released onto the world. Since then, I have flown almost exclusively in career mode on the sim. My path has not been an easy one, however. I've had plenty of wasted money on the way as I learned how the sim controls career mode and how best to approach it. This video is about my journey, if you like. It's about my learning, it's my advice, some of the pains that I've had on the way, and some of the tips and advice that I can give to you. Bear in mind, I am absolutely thoroughly enjoying career mode, and I know there's a patch coming out next week which may address some of the issues that we're currently facing, but I don't know which ones. So bear that in mind. This is not a video where I'm complaining. This is a video where I'm basically passing on my experience and my advice to you in case you're planning or are playing career mode and would like to learn from my mistakes. So let's get started. So let's kick things off by taking a look at my company, or rather my career mode, and what companies I have, what aircraft I currently own, and how that's performing. So this is Jensen. This is my avatar that I created. I'm sure you know why I call him Jensen. And if you click on career mode, it'll take us into our headquarters and we can have a look at what companies we've got and what aircraft I own. So I have 3 companies. If I click on companies here and we go to all companies, you can see that I've got 3 companies. I have More on Air, which is the company that I use to do flight seeing missions. Notice I don't have any aircraft in there anymore. We'll talk more about that later. I have More on Celebs, which is used for doing VIP missions. And I have More on Freight International, which is used for moving freight around. Now, Jensen is currently level 89, so, you know, quite a lot of XP has gone by. I've done quite a lot of missions and done a lot of grinding. I have 1.89 million at the top, though, you can see, in credits. And as you can see from the overview here, we've kind of made 5.7 million total and 2 million company's balance and expenses of 3.6 million, so not too bad. If you go and have a look at each company, you'll see that under More on Freight International, I own a Cessna 208 Caravan EX. This was bought second-hand for 1.6 million, but it does come with some maintenance that's needed, and I'll talk more about that in a second. Under More on Celebs, I have a Cirrus Vision Jet G2. This was bought brand new for 700k and is still in very good condition. Now, briefly, for those of you who don't know how Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 career mode works, I shall endeavour to explain. Effectively, under certifications, there is a tech tree for you to work through. You start off life and you basically go out and get your private pilot license and have fun flying around unpaid for an employee. You then get your commercial pilot license. That lets you work for the man, but actually earn some money. From there, you start to build up money and you start to unlock other certifications. Along the way, you'll then be able to do specializations. Specializations are the kind of short-term goals that you work towards. They're your immediate targets, if you like, depending on which way you want to go. If you want to go flight seeing, do those kind of missions. If you wanted to take skydivers up to do skydiving, or if you want to do light transportation, aerial advertising, VIP charter service, etc. And then this then expands off into things like bigger cargo or medivac missions, aerial firefighting, and then super heavy and heavy cargo transport. This is much later on in the game, and I don't have access to that yet. Equally, there's also helicopter stuff, a similar set of missions, but aimed at rotorcraft. So that's the certification and specialization. The way that you do a mission is you click on missions. This then takes you to a view of the world. And then within the world, you can basically choose either here to take employee missions where you work for somebody else and you use their aircraft and you just get paid around about 10% of the overall income for the job. Or when you own a company and you then buy your own aircraft, you then work for yourself as a freelancer. And of course, your planes will be placed somewhere around the map, and you will yourself will be around somewhere on the map, and you will need to pay to transfer yourself or your plane if you want to fly somewhere else. For example, both of my aircraft are currently in North America. If I wanted to transfer over here and start flying some more European missions, I would have to basically move a plane over here or go out and buy another plane and station it in Europe. But effectively, this is what you do. You basically run through these missions of different types, cargo missions, VIP missions, etc., and earn your money that way. Now, working as an employee does not get you a great deal of money. You're going to want to get your own company and get your own aircraft in order to start earning the big bucks. How do you go about doing this? Well, there are a couple of things that will hold you back. Firstly, obviously money, but also certifications and your level. If you look through these specializations, you'll notice that they have a bunch of prerequisites. For example, ferry freight requires you to be level 3 and have a commercial pilot license. This is the first step. Once you get to here, you'll be able to earn money working as an employee. After that, your next target will be flight seeing. This is where you take people from, you take off, you go one position, another position, another position, they look at the sights and then you bring them back. To get this, you will need to get the commercial pilot license, which is back on the certifications page. That is where you could, in theory, purchase your first company. You could purchase a flight seeing company and start flying people around. However, those missions are a bit boring and I would not recommend you do that. You've then got Skydive Aviation. This comes in at level 8 with a commercial pilot license, but also requires you to actually fly some missions with a Class C or above and to perform some smooth landings. Again, I wouldn't recommend creating a company for this either. Taking off to 10,000 feet and chucking people out and then coming back down gets a bit repetitive. It's up to you though. If you want to, go for it. This is only my recommendation. Where I think you should aim initially is this one. This is level 10, commercial pilot license, and then the same requirements as Skydive Aviation. So with this one, you can then purchase a Cessna 172, and you can fit it out for cargo and do cargo missions. And these are quite lucrative in the early days. So how do you do that? Well, what you do, you come to create company, you then go to your cargo transport and you create this company. You'll need about 25,000 credits to do this the very first time. 1,000 credits to create the company and about 24,000 to purchase a heavily subsidized Cessna 172. But from there, you'll be able to make good money. Now, what do I mean by good money? Well, let's have a look at the numbers. So this is a Cessna 172 Skyhawk being purchased for 23,000 credits. This is my start of my company career. And you will notice that I then have to grind flight seeing missions paying about 40,000, 47,000 each, along with some associated repairs and insurances. This goes on for quite a while. You can see me doing flight seeing missions, more flight seeing missions. At this point, they're getting really, really dull. Flight seeing missions, 40 grand. What I really want to do is move cargo. So eventually, after doing lots of 40,000 credit grindings, I then save up enough to get my next Skyhawk. But I then realize that when you create your freight company, more on Freight International, and you buy your first aircraft, it's no longer 24,000 credits. The best you can do is a 218,000 credit aircraft. So my advice to you is do not buy a plane for flight seeing missions. Wait until you've got enough level to get the freight version and then get a freight. And the simple reason is this. A cargo mission in a 172 nets you 112, 163. It's 3 to 4 times as much money per mission as a flight seeing mission. And it's a lot more interesting because you get to at least fly around the map rather than just flying around a town or a city. So that's my advice. So once you've got that cargo 172 on your own company, you're earning decent money. What's your next goal? Well, in specializations, I would smash through aerial advertising and otherwise just completely ignore it, and then move to charter service private. This is level 16. This requires an instrument rating and then some other requirements about landing smoothness. This is obviously something that you can work towards. There's quite a few missions that you'll have to do to get to this point, but this is going to unlock the next step. What is the next step? Put simply, the next step is to create a charter service company. This is a VIP company. This allows you to move very important people around the map, and they pay good money for it, even in a Cessna 172. But I wouldn't recommend you buy a Cessna 172 for that company. What I would recommend that you do is save up 700,000, which sounds like a lot, but for that you can buy a brand new Cirrus Vision Jet, and this thing is a beautiful plane to fly. It can go around at almost 200 knots, no problem, even 300 ground speed with a tailwind. It can go a lot higher, pressurized cabin, and it will get you around with some fantastic Garmin equipment on board. This will net you some serious money. Let me show you. So there's the Vision Jet being purchased for 710,000, and then the first mission I did was 112, and then 318, 242,000. You can see very quickly, just out of these two, we've almost made up enough money to pay back the Vision Jet that we just bought. After 4 missions of doing this, you'll be well into the black. Now, after you've done that, you'll be back on the grind. You need to grind up and get that cash. You need at least 1.6 million in the bank, and your next goal should be level 25. You've got your instrument rating. Now you need to get your turboprop engine rating. So this requires 2 ratings, a high-powered aircraft and a turboprop. Once you've ground this, you can then buy the Cessna 208 Caravan, which is the aircraft that I own, and I'll show you how much money that makes. So there's my purchase of the 208 Caravan for 1.6 million. However, this does come with a caveat. This aircraft needs about 1.2 million of repairs, so just bear that in mind. Although it lies to you and says it's in good condition, it's actually not. It's in average to low condition in some respects. But look at the missions. First mission I did, 795,000. That pays for quite a lot of repairs, and it carries on. Another mission down here, 957,000. And then another mission down here, 1 million credits. So after you've done 3 or 4 missions of that, you will be able to repair the plane up to a very good standard, and you'll have 1.9 million in the bank like I've got, no problem at all. So that's my current position on this. After that, I can't really offer any more advice on which direction to go. You can, of course, do other things like get your Medivac certs once you get the right level. Get your charter service at level 45. You can branch off, but these aircraft are way too expensive to buy initially. You're going to have to grind those cargo missions and get yourself up into the millions. And you can, of course, branch off into rotorcraft if you want to. Which leads me on to certifications. So with those goals in mind, with certifications, this is what I would suggest that you do. First of all, unless you're going to actually fly helicopters, if you're just out to make money, I'd suggest you stay away from the helicopters for now. Do them for fun if you want to, but they're not going to make you good money in the early days. Better is to go in this direction with the objectives that I just gave you. So get your commercial pilot license. That's the first thing you need to get. You'll then need to get that instrument rating unlocked. It's a fairly simple mission. You've got to land in some cloud and all the rest of it. But once you've got that unlocked, another thing will happen. On the world map, it will now, for every mission, no longer be giving you contrived weather, shall I call it. What will actually happen is when you pick a mission, it will unlock this time bar. So you will have live time and weather, but you'll be able to slide the slider back up to 24 hours of weather. So it's got historical weather for the last 24 hours once the servers are working. And that means that whenever you fly from now on, you're likely to experience live weather, which means, as you can see up in the northern parts of America and Canada, we've got a lot of snow and icy conditions. Bear that in mind, because if you fly in a Cessna 172 and you start pootling around here in winter, you're going to get some frost on your wings, and that's not good. Your only recourse to that is to move further south, or at the very least, perhaps, try and slide the weather back and see if you can get some better weather. Now, once you've got that instrument rating, that's pretty much where you need to be for the time being. Well, with that, you'll be able to fly the Cessna 172 in all kinds of conditions. If you want to do night missions, you'll need to get the night currency as well, but I didn't bother with that until late on. Your next objective really is to go down high performance and then into turboprop, because once you get into high performance, you can get the jet engine rating, so you need to get these two, so you can get the Vision Jet, and then you need to get this one to get the 208 Caravan. And then after that, you can pretty much, you should have the money then to do whatever you like. You can get the tail wheel whenever you feel like it. It's only $5,000. Once you're earning $1 million per cargo run, you can do what you like. Now, what I've just given you is my condensed advice. But my path to that was very, very rough. In my head, when I started playing this game, I kind of thought to myself, oh, we've got passive income. In that case, I'll treat it a bit like Euro Truck Simulator. What I'll do is I'll have various aircraft and I'll get the AI to fly them. Sounds great. So the path that I chose More on Air. I put a 172 into it. I got More on Celebs. I put a 172 into that. And then eventually I got a more on Freight International and put a 172 into that. And I did a lot of grinding on the way to get those 3 172s. But my expectation was that whilst I'm flying one of these aircraft, the AI would be happily flying the other 2, and I'd earn really good money. I was very, very rudely awakened on that one. So this was me flying and streaming on YouTube and Twitch on the Sunday, 24th of November, and you can see that I ended the day by buying... I grinded all the way through and bought my 3rd Cessna 172 Skyhawk for $259,000, and that left me with about 120 grand in the bank. That was on a Sunday. I next played on Friday, and I streamed it as well. And what basically happened is when I logged in that morning, I went from 120 grand to zero. Zero. It completely cleaned me out. And I was like, what on earth has just happened? So I logged in, and this is what I saw. So I saw some passive income. This is on the 25th. This is on Monday the 25th. 77 grand of passive income from More on Air, right? I had my insurance payment from all the flying the day before. And then I had insurance payment, insurance payment, insurance payment. Look at this, 25th. Nothing on the 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th. So 29th of November was the Friday. That's when I started streaming. I didn't fly between the Sunday and the Friday, but all of these expenses wiped me out and I got down to zero. I then had no choice but to fly a mission. You can see it here. I had to go back to being an employee to get 29,000 so that I had enough money to move my plane and fly my own plane, because I couldn't move it, so I couldn't take it to a job. I had zero cash. And fly my own plane and get myself back on track. That was a huge wake-up call. So how did that come about? Well, with each company, once you've got your own aircraft, you can do a few things. So if I click on my celeb company, this is my Vision Jet. There's a couple of settings here. One of them is crew on or off. This instructs whether the AI is allowed to fly your plane. However, the planes don't get flown by the AI unless you yourself are flying as well, which therefore means that on a day where you're not flying, you shouldn't get billed anything because the AI won't fly either. And yet, as you saw, I got tens of thousands of insurance bills. I think that's a bug. Now, this may get fixed next week in the big patch, but right now, that cleaned me out. The other thing you can look at is the insurance. So if I go to manage aircraft, you've got 3 types of insurance. I had all my insurance on this one, which is the advanced insurance. So I was being billed something like 7, 8, 9,000. It's not as much. It's more for a Vision Jet than it was for a 172. But it was thousands per hour, and I was getting billed 26 grand, which means the AI flew it for about 4 hours, but I didn't get any income from it, which I assume is also a bug. So there are 2 things that I can tell you to do, or advise you to do, until the career mode is fixed. Number 1, put it on basic insurance. That way, you won't be charged very much money for expensive. The only thing to note is, of course, don't crash your plane. Don't total your plane. If you do slam it into the ground, my advice is to Alt F4 it quickly. You'll lose reputation, but hopefully you won't lose the plane. Basic insurance, and turn off crew. Do not let the AI fly your plane. And I'll tell you another reason why you don't let the AI fly your plane. This is why. Repairs. Look at the amount I had to spend repairing my plane because of the AI. I decided there and then that I was going to get rid of the 172s that the AI was meant to be flying because I wasn't going to let them fly it anyway. But before I could even get any kind of money for them, bearing in mind I spent $260,000 on that plane, I had to do a whole lot of repairs just to get the value from 60k back up to 122k. And the same with this one, I had to spend money to get it back up to 182k. I still lost a huge amount of money on these planes because all that week the AI was flying my planes. It was not only accruing insurance, it was actually causing 25% maintenance damage to my planes, which is an insane number. And all of that meant it devalued all my planes. So when I sold my planes, I lost money on that as well. The bottom line is, turn off the AI crew and don't have multiple planes for now because it's not worth it. So taking all these things together, turning off aircrew and going for basic insurance, Yesterday I flew for 5 hours and 18 minutes in my Grand Caravan, and you can see that on basic insurance I was billed for 20,740 credits. That flight netted me over 1 million credits in profit, so that's pretty good. What's slightly perplexing though is the Cirrus Vision Jet, which I haven't flown for 4 days, and yet every single morning I am billed for 53 minutes of flying and 710 credits of basic insurance. That item there is most surely a bug. Anyway, for now, basic insurance and turning off aircrew definitely works for me. So what I'd like to do now is pass on some advice and some things that I've learned, some tips which might help you in your career mode. We'll start off by taking a look at the mission screens, because there's something in here that you may or may not know. I didn't know it. It took me about a week to find this one out, and that was some kind person in Twitch chat. So here we are. I'm on employee, but I'll switch that to freelance. Now, when I go to freelance, you'll see that there aren't many jobs available. My plane is here, and my pilot is also here. And this is the area that I can see jobs within. I can't see any jobs in any areas that I've not flown to. Now, the really annoying thing about this, as you can see, I've got this area unlocked down here near Orlando, and I've got this area unlocked in Atlanta. And I've actually flown between Atlanta and Orlando, but nothing in between is unlocked. Really annoying. So that means what? You have to keep flying around and unlocking all the little circles like a patchwork quilt? Well, kind of, but there's actually a trick which the game doesn't tell you about. Let me show you this. Zoom in on an area. Let's zoom down here. We'll find a little helipad or landing pad, doesn't matter what it is, and we'll fast travel. Our pilot will now fast travel for 700 credits to here, and lo and behold, it will unlock that area, and now I can see more jobs. We can go from there, we can come over here somewhere, and obviously we have to guess about how big the circle is, but for 790 credits, it's unlocked even more jobs. I could come back up here. You get the idea. Now, this is both crazy to me and wonderfully useful. On the one hand, before I knew this, I had no way of exploring apart from deliberately trying to find jobs to specific areas so that I could actually unlock visibility on more jobs. And secondly, if they are going to let us do this, let me just drag an area of the map out and pay for it. I can't be bothered with going around clicking different parts of the map, fast traveling my guy artificially just to unlock things so I can see jobs. It makes very little sense to me, this. But that's the way it is. Anyway, you can fast travel around to pick jobs. Now, once you've found a job and you hover over it, there's a couple of things about it that are inaccurate. The first thing is the duration. This one says 2.5 hours, but that's a mission that goes to the west. We don't know on this screen what the winds are. We have no idea. Even if we slide this timer here, so we look at, say, yesterday's winds, we still can't see what the winds are. It could be that today it's a westerly wind, but, 24 hours ago it was a northerly wind. That duration will be greatly affected by whether we've got a headwind or a tailwind, etc. So it's not showing me the information, nor is it taking it into account. The second thing is, the amount it's showing that we're going to get paid of 20,000 is nonsense. That's more or less what you would get for an employee mission. We're running our own plane. For a mission like that, we're probably going to be knocking on the door of 750 to 950,000 credits. But the only time it will ever tell me this is when I click on it, and it doesn't tell me here, it just tells me that it's IFR to IFR. It won't tell me until I accept the mission how much I will actually be paid for it, which is bonkers. Now, when you have picked your job, it puts you into this screen. And this is an interesting screen because it actually, you need to change things on this screen, otherwise you'll be in trouble. First of all, if you bring up the EFB, you'll notice that it's got us down as a cruise altitude of 44,000 feet. I'm in a Cessna 208 Caravan. I am not going to be going to 44,000 feet in an unpressurized cabin. So you need to change that. So let's say we put that at 120. That's the first thing. Flight level 120 at about 12,000 feet. That'll do. The next thing is, we know we're landing into limited IFR conditions, but this particular runway that it's set into doesn't have any kind of IFR procedures going in. So it's got VFR pattern via the left reverse teardrop, which is when you look at it, and this often does this, it often goes for teardrop entries into the destination. Let me just zoom out a bit more. There you go. So you can see what kind of madness by default it will have you doing. But you can change this. If we come back to the screen and press the Q key, we can actually go in, move the camera around, and go down and see what it's currently planning for us to do. So effectively, it's going to have us coming in as a pattern entry, looping around and then coming back that way in quite possibly what it thinks is LIFR conditions. That is reasonable. You could do a VFR landing just about, but it does look a bit sketchy. Not a lot of choice though. The only thing you've got to do is just to not do the mission if you don't fancy that. But if we tap on the FB, we can at least change this into something else. So we could have, for example, a left direct entry pattern which would look more like this. So if I then click on change procedure, file that with ATC and send to the avionics, as soon as I file it with ATC, it will actually change what it visualizes over here, which is a much nicer entry point. You know, the idea is we'll fly in kind of parallel to the runway, should have it visual on our left, and then we can just neatly left base and left final and get in that way. That is a much better entry pattern, and you can sort that out before you actually accept the flight. You know, you can make it do that. However, just be prepared for the fact that the ATC can and will often change the landing runway that you're going into. The other thing that you run into a problem with is going to be the fuel, and this is a weird one. We're actually taking cargo, and so what you'd expect to see is to have some kind of a screen which has your payload here. It has your fuel, your trip fuel. It says is 112 pounds, which is absolute rubbish. It doesn't make any sense. There's no weight and balance chart that we can click through. Can't see that we're conforming to any kind of weight and balance checks. We don't know how much fuel to put in, and we don't know if we've got a headwind, so therefore we need more fuel. This is a bit, at the moment, it's a bit messy. It's also saying we're going to run IFR flight rules, even though we've just picked a VFR, but you know, whatever. Change it to VFR if you want. Actually, better, I found, is to sort the fuel out when you get in the plane. So let's take a look at how to do that. Now I've accepted the mission. It's telling me that we should get 586,000 credits for it and a whole bunch of XP. Should have told me this on the mission screen, but hey ho. It's Jensen. Jensen in his leather jacket. Oh yeah. This man's worth billions, but he still loves to fly his caravan. Okay, so by default, it's given me this much fuel. It's about half tanks. What if I want more fuel? Or what if I'm flying and I discover I don't have enough fuel? Am I just going to fail in career mode? Well, there is a way around it. Go to your settings and go to your controls, go to your keyboard, and then basically map a key. I've mapped my insert key. So when I press the insert key, it does add fuel quantity. As it says there, adds 25% of capacity by default. So every time I press the insert key, I get 25% more fuel in my aircraft. Something else you might want to map is I've got page up and page down for this. Page up key will increase the sim rate, and page down key will decrease the sim rate. Does sim rate affect career mode? Currently, no. Whether they'll patch it, I don't know. It's pretty much safe to 2x your sim when you're in cruise. 4x, I would strongly suggest that you monitor what's going on. So, you know, if you're going to go make a coffee, leave it on 2. If you're going to sit there and watch it, 4 is okay in my experience. So they're the keys that I would recommend that you map. Now, if I zoom in here and look at our fuel quantity, and I press the insert key now, you'll notice it just added 25% fuel. If I press it again, it adds another 25%. I've now got full tanks of fuel. I don't know how heavy this cargo is or whether our weight and balance is actually correct, but it works. A couple of other things that you might want to map. This one here is toggle visual assistances display. If you map that to a button on your stick, then you'll be able to turn on and off those taxi displays and also the waypoints actually to go to, because I know some people find those quite annoying. The other thing is, particularly in the caravan, I suggest you map a mixture axis so that you can basically put your propellers into low and high idle, because when it's in high idle, you'll find that your taxi speeds can be insane, and as you can see now, without the brakes on, it actually just freely taxis on its own. But if you put it into kind of a low idle there, it backs off and it will just quite happily sit still. Now, another tip I've got for you is when you're being controlled by ATC like this, it will come up here and say press enter key to talk to ATC. It'll handle it for you, change frequencies, change your transponder or whatever. If you press the backslash key, it actually brings up the communication window, and this is useful for a number of reasons. Firstly, because sometimes the enter key doesn't work. You press it and nothing happens, and at least with this you'll be able to take action if you have this window collapsed at the top here, which is what I do. The other thing is if you didn't quite catch what they were saying because you were a bit busy, you can then bring this up and see exactly what was said. Another thing I found is below 18,000 feet, you can actually cancel IFR. I find myself doing this a fair bit, and the reason is because quite a number of times I've been cruising along and it doesn't give me a descent. It doesn't tell me to descend coming into the approach for the runway, and I request to descend decrease altitude and it denies it. So the only recourse then really is to cancel IFR. But if you're above 18,000 feet, which you're not in this admittedly, but in a Vision Jet you might be, this is one of the best ways to do it, is to just click on cancel, radar service gets terminated, and then you can just do your own thing. Up to you, but you know, that's what I sometimes do.
Tree IFR flight plan is canceled, radar service terminated. Squawk 1200. Maintain VFR. Frequency change approved. Good day.
Okay, so while we're nearly in cruise, I'll just show you briefly the sim rate controls. If you've mapped a key, page up and page down like I have, to increase or decrease your sim rate, then you could use it. So if I press the page up key now, you'll see the sim starts to double its speed, and if I press it one more time, that's sim rate times 4. And this neatly illustrates a problem in the sim in general at the moment. I think the way that the flight model currently behaves, and particularly around turbulence, is a little bit overcooked. I mean, we're in a quite calm day at the moment, but you can see that the plane is being thrown around a little bit. If you around the hilly areas in particular, this can be really bad, and in a Cessna 172, very bad indeed. This also happens on final and short final. You can find yourself being thrown around like a paper bag in a Cessna 172. I hope they're patching that next week, reducing the turbulence to more realistic setting. But for now, it's something to be aware of, that when you do increase the sim rate, you may also find that you've got to play like this, because like this makes you feel a bit sick. It can get quite bad. How do you tell what sim rate speed you're in? Put simply, you can't. There is no way of telling what sim rate speed you are in. There is no key that you can map that will bring your sim rate down to 1x, and there's nothing you can look at that will show you what sim rate you're currently in, bar getting a plug-in. However, there is one neat trick that I've found. Get onto your tablet, click on the navigation log here, it's got a stopwatch at the top. If you click on start, very quickly you can tell that that is not going up in seconds, so I can safely press the page down key. Click start again, and I can still tell that that is definitely not counting up in seconds, so I can page down again. Press the start key now, and that is now counting up in seconds, so now I know I'm in sim rate 1. There was a mod that would show you a sim rate in Flight Sim 2020. I don't know if it works in 24. I tried it and it didn't work for me, so it may need an update. But that is a common question I get in my streams, is where do you see the sim rate? Well, that's it for this video, guys. I hope you found some of it useful. My advice is based on things that I've learned, and I'm just trying to pass the information on. Hopefully your career mode will be a bit smoother, armed with this information. And also there is a patch coming out to Flight Sim next week. That's basically kind of mid to early December, which hopefully will address some of the issues that I've faced in the last couple of weeks. I think career mode is a fantastic addition to Flight Sim. I really am enjoying it, but I really do want some polish to come to career mode, just to take away some of the pain. But nevertheless, I'm still having an absolute riot with it, and I will of course update you with future videos on anything else that I learn. You can always come over and watch on YouTube and Twitch. I'm live on the weekends, playing Flight Sim currently in career mode, so you can watch what I get up to. Right, let's see if we can land this, because we've got a bit of a left-to-right crosswind going on. So this should be fun. Yeah, I don't like landing high wingers in crosswinds. They're always a handful. We'll see how we get on. Come on, down you come. Yeah, there's the crosswind. There's the crosswind. Blimey. Yeah, that was a huge handful. Whew, got it down. Cool. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Take care. Happy flying.